Tim Costello is Chief Executive of World Vision and Co-Chair of Make Poverty History, and he joins me now. Welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Are you concerned that the government might be about to shift this target?
Well, the forward estimates suggest that they're on target. There's been an aid effectiveness review which focuses on saving lives, chaired including Margaret Reid, who was a Liberal President of the Senate. And I think Australians are very proud of what we are doing in the aid budget. So I would be very worried if it shifted, and I have no expectation that they'll do this.
It's fair to say that the entire aid community, though, does know that this is on the table at the moment.
Well, certainly in the Australian, there was reports of the Prime Minister saying there might be adjustments. So, yes, everyone knows that. And I think most Australians assume we are very, very generous. In fact, we're in the bottom third of the OECD countries. We're 15th only. We're privately generous. But when I say to people, we're just aiming to get to 0.5% of GNI, that's 50 cents and $100. Imagine $100 of 50-cent coins. 200 coins, you say, how many coins do you think we actually give? People will say, oh, at least 10, $5. I say, no, we're not even giving one coin. We're aiming by 2015 to give one 50-cent coin. We're only giving 35 cents. People go, is that all we're giving? So this is actually a very small amount. And given that most of the poor in our world don't live in Africa, they live in our region, it's really critical.
But it's true to say, though, the government could say after this it's just shifting the target, it's still going to reach the goal. So what difference does it make?
Well, I think the fact that we have certainly domestic pain, and I can understand a government saying we've got to find savings, but remembering that we're one of only two aid budgets, the British are the other one, actually increasing, which buys us influence. That's why Kevin Rudd was at the table in Syria or Egypt, because people want us. Also, there's far greater domestic pain in Britain. They slashed and burnt their budget spending, but they ring-fenced aid. And David Cameron, and they're already at 0.5, going to 0.7, David Cameron, a Conservative leader, said, we won't balance the books on the backs of the poor. In this time of negativity in Australian life, where Australians seem grumpy, this is one bipartisan thing that shines.
If the government keeps the target but shifts the date, will you see it as a broken promise?
We'd be very, very disappointed. It's in the platform, as you said. It's actually a smart investment. It's not just charity, it is that. But given that we're building 2,000 schools in Indonesia and it's not going to madrasas and fundamentalists, this is smart for security reasons, economic reasons. We would be extraordinarily disappointed if that happened.
Isn't it true to say, though, that there are people in the bureaucracy who do believe that AusAid can't manage this growth in its budget?
Well, I think it's fair to say that AusAid have had a far-ranging review and have said, right, we're focusing on poor people, not poor countries. We're not just giving it to governments. We're having measurable impact, and the first thing is saving lives. That's what most Australians get. It also showed that AusAid's so-called corruption and fraud was 0.2%, far less than Centacare. So I think AusAid's had a shake-up. They certainly have reformed themselves, because this is a really big spend, but an important spend, and it's only 1% of the budget.
But what about waste? What about the fact that they hire a lot of consultants that don't actually deliver a lot?
Well, Kevin Rudd, to his credit, and AusAid stepped up and said, right, we're slashing that by over 25%, and those high salaries, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year salaries were cut. So I think AusAid's actually done the right thing. Testimony is the aid effectiveness review, which was bipartisan, and that's why it's still bipartisan, which is a beacon of hope that we are taking out. Not John Howard's promise or even Julia Gillard's promise that we will achieve the MDGs. It was a promise by the Australian people. It's our promise to the world's poor.
Given that it was a pledge, that it's written into the party's platform, that it was adopted not just by Kevin Rudd but also by Julia Gillard at the last election, why can't the Prime Minister come out and say that she'll keep her pledge? She's not speculating on the budget issue if she just says she's going to do what she said she was going to do.
Well, obviously that would make us very happy. We wouldn't be having this conversation. I suspect they're making all sorts of decisions in the next week. I'm still expecting that because it's in the platform, because they've promised it in 2007 and 2010, that it will be on track. It's in the forward estimates. But they have their own reasons of saying we don't speculate. I think this is really important. We know there's no votes in aid, as Richard Nixon said. But this goes right to the heart of why Australians are proud about what they do in the world. It saves lives.
Would you like to see that pledge repeated before the budget?
Absolutely. I think a pledge repeated and saying that, there's still 21,000 kids under the age of 5 dying each day. We're saving some of those lives, is what is truest about our deepest Australian values.
Tim Costello, thank you.
Our pleasure.